Isabella Guzman was born in Aurora, Colorado, to parents Robert Guzman and Yunmi Hoy. When Isabella was 4 years old, her parents decided to go their separate ways and divorce, but still stayed close since they were both co-owners of a portrait studio, which they had named after Isabella. Within a few years of the divorce, Isabella's mother started a new relationship with a man named Ryan Hoy, and they were soon married. Isabella was not a fan of Ryan becoming her stepfather, and Isabella often got into heated arguments with her mother, which worried their friends and family. She was growing more threatening and disrespectful towards her mom as time progressed, and in an effort to diffuse the inexplicable tension between mother and daughter, Isabella went to live with her father, Robert, when she was 7 years old. In her late teens, Isabella moved back in with her mother, Yunmi, and her stepfather, Ryan, and spent equal times between both mother and father's homes. Yunmi and Ryan had hoped that the time apart from Isabella would help repair their relationship, but it seemed like it drove them further apart. Isabella's behavior was just worsening. Before leaving for work on August 28, 2013, Yunmi received a shocking email from Isabella. Yunmi showed Ryan the email, which sent chills down his spine. The letter read, "You will pay for what you have done." Yunmi read the email several times and made the decision to call 911 and explain that she was concerned with her daughter's behavior and needed help with her. The police arrived 10 minutes later, and Yunmi explained to officers about her extremely strained and volatile relationship with her daughter. Officers made their way inside to speak with Isabella. The police then had a primarily one-sided conversation with Isabella, basically lecturing her on the importance of treating her mother kindly and about the dangers that empty threats can have. But what police did not realize at that point was that those threats were anything but empty. They reminded her that she was now 18 and living in her mother's house, and if she didn't adjust her behavior, her mother and stepfather might make the decision to kick her out. This conversation with police seemed to have relaxed Isabella, and she stayed in her bedroom for what Ryan described as most of the day. Yunmi had decided to call her ex-husband and tell him about what had transpired that morning. She had grown so scared of her daughter that she knew that she had to reach out. Robert told Yunmi he would go and have a talk with her. He was aware of their strained relationship, but was unaware of the more recent disputes and the abuse that Yunmi had been receiving from their daughter. Robert made his way over and sat with Isabella in the backyard. He said they were looking at the trees and animals and told her that she should respect her mother and tried to explain the importance of being obedient to her parents and not rebellious. He said that he had felt the conversation went well and he thought he really got through to her, but unfortunately, his words fell on deaf ears. Yunmi came home around 9:30 p.m. that night to Ryan having dinner downstairs. She went upstairs to have a shower. Ryan said shortly after the water had started, he heard a low thumping sound coming from the direction of the upstairs bathroom. Then he heard the screaming. He realized it was Yunmi desperately calling out his name, followed by barely audible moans for help. He jumped up from the dining room table and made his way up the stairs as fast as he could. With the sound of the shower running, it was hard for him to hear what was happening on the other side of the bathroom door. Ryan tried as hard as he could to push his way into the bathroom and stop whatever was going on. But despite his best efforts, he was only able to open the door an inch or two before it was pushed back against him with a huge amount of force. He was, however, able to catch a glimpse of Isabella on the other side of the door, just before it was slammed in his face and locked. Leaving him locked on the other side of the door, completely unaware of the gruesome acts happening mere feet away from him. That's when he saw the blood seeping from below the door. He ran in a panic down the stairs to retrieve his phone and call 911, then run back upstairs. He told dispatch that he believed his wife was being attacked by his stepdaughter. As he tried again to obtain entry into the bathroom, he heard his wife scream out, "Jehovah." Then the bathroom door opened. He could see Isabella standing in a puddle of blood in the doorway with a knife in her hand. With the knife pointed downward in her hand, she stared blankly ahead and walked right past Ryan out the front door. She was wearing a pink sports bra and turquoise shorts. Ryan ran into the bathroom to perform CPR as a desperate attempt to save Yoon Mi's life. The scene was a horrifyingly gruesome one. Yoon Mi's naked body was covered in blood, and a baseball bat was nestled in the small of her back. Ryan knew that the blank expression on Yoon Mi's face meant that she was already gone, and no amount of CPR would bring her back. It was originally reported that Isabella had stabbed her mom, 47-year-old Yoon Mi Hoi, 79 times in the face and neck, but court testimony indicated that she had actually stabbed her mother 151 times in total, including 35 times in the face and 51 times in the neck, and then beat her with a baseball bat. Ryan described the events of that horrific night to the officers, and the investigation into Yoon Mi's brutal homicide began immediately, with Isabella Guzman being their primary suspect and nowhere to be found. The following morning, officers received a 911 call around 11:30 a.m. that a body had been discovered inside a car in a parking garage. Undercover officers alongside a canine search party were dispatched. The car was approached, but there was nobody inside. Officers did, however, find evidence pointing towards Isabella and her mother's homicide. After a 16-hour manhunt, police witnessed Isabella leaving the garage and surrounded her with their guns drawn. Isabella was sat down beside a bush on a traffic median and was arrested without incident. Isabella was charged with first-degree murder. In the video of her hearing, she's seen in an orange jumpsuit with shackles on her wrists and feet. She sits listening to the judge about the charges being brought against her, then makes a face at the camera. Near the end of the hearing, it appears that she may have been tearing up, but looks towards the camera and smirks, and makes some strange motions that some people say is indicative of her lack of remorse. However, it could also be signs of a mental illness. After a psychological evaluation found that Isabella had been suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and both visual and audio hallucinations and delusions, the judge found her not guilty by reasons of insanity and sent her to the Pueblo Psychiatric Hospital in Colorado for an indeterminate amount of time. In late 2020, after 7 years of being in the psychiatric hospital, Isabella asked to be released. She said that she had been put on medication and her sanity had been restored and she wanted to return to society. She claims that she was abused at home for years. After telling her parents that she wanted to leave the Jehovah's Witness religion at the age of 14, the abuse worsened at home. She said that she regrets what she had done, and if she could change it or take it back, she would. Her request for freedom had been partially granted. She will be allowed to leave the hospital for therapy sessions, but she will be required to wear a GPS tracker.